Breaking news, the former UN ambassador John Bolton and a Fox News contributor is replacing H.R. McMaster as national security advisor. The White House making this announcement just a short time ago. H.R. McMaster going to retire, not take a four-star position. We've known for several weeks McMaster was on the outs. Bolton was on the list of possible replacements. But Bolton is not just anyone. He is a very specific and controversial pick, and it's a very significant one for this country and the world tonight. Barbara Starr is out front of the Pentagon. Barbara, Bolton has been outspoken on issue after issue. One of the most recent, North Korea. He's advocated for military intervention there instead of diplomacy. That's one of many. But what about North Korea?
Well, that is now front and center as we could be just a couple of weeks away from President Trump's summit with the North Korean leader. Look, this is the problem now is this puts Defense Secretary Jim Mattis in a very difficult position, uncharted territory for him in the year plus that he has been in office. Mattis, a major advocate for diplomacy, backed up by the threat of military force. But Bolton, as you say, Aaron, has been out there time and again, very much talking about the use of U.S. military force, whether it's North Korea, Iran, or other scenarios. This is not what Mattis wants to see. He has crafted a strategy where he goes to the president and he talks about options, and he makes it clear to the president that military force is the most significant step, has massive costs, not just to this country, but to the Pacific region, to financial circles around the world. This is very, very difficult business. And he's been able to convince the president for the last year, keep up the diplomatic pressure campaign, keep it going. But Rex Tillerson is gone now. That voice is gone. H.R. McMaster's voice is gone. This now puts Mattis in the toughest of positions in terms of getting his views directly expressed to the president, getting the president to pay attention. Already tonight, top administration officials saying it'll all be fine. Mattis will be heard. But we actually don't know that for a fact, and that is causing some consternation now. Will Bolton's voice now take precedent over the diplomatic voices that have been talking to the president, Tillerson and Mattis, for the last year? Aaron?
Mattis has certainly given many countries and individuals around the world a lot of calm about this administration. Certainly not a name they want to see floated as in jeopardy in any way. Thank you very much, Barbara Starr. I want to go now to former State Department spokesperson and former Pentagon press secretary John Kirby. Sam Vinograd also joins me, who was on the national security team for the Obama administration. Thanks to both of you. All right, I want to get the sense here of how crucial of a moment this is, Admiral Kirby. McMaster is out and John Bolton is in. What is your reaction to that, to John Bolton now being the national security advisor, the single most important voice on national security, war and peace decisions to the president of the United States?
I'm worried about two things here, Aaron. One is obviously a very hawkish record on things like North Korea and the Iran deal. And now we have Pompeo potentially coming in as Secretary of State. A more bellicose attitude of the United States towards the Iran deal worries me greatly in sort of just a more militaristic tone. But number two, and this is not insignificant, I'm worried that the president is more and more surrounding himself with yes men, with people who are either promising to think like he does or will think like he does on everything. And one of the great things about a good national security advisor is teeing up, as Barbara said, lots of options, different opinions, even dissenting views. And I worry that Mr. Bolton is not the kind of guy with a record, a strong record, of being an inclusive thinker in that regard.
Sam, I mentioned, and I want to mention again, an article that was written by John Bolton, an op-ed. To stop Iran's bomb Iran was the headline. And he continued in a sentence to say, time is terribly short, but a strike can still succeed, right? Advocating a military strike against Iran. That was in March of 2015. So that we should bomb Iran. And here is what he said on North Korea on Fox News just recently. Here he is.
The only diplomatic option left is to end the regime in North Korea by effectively having the South take it over. I think you've got to argue to China.
That's not really diplomatic, as far as they're concerned.
Well, that's their problem, not ours.
That was September of last year. Sam, are those just things that he says, and now maybe he'll be different? You know, we don't need to have South Korea go to war with North Korea and have millions of people die. We don't need to bomb Iran. Or does he actually mean that and going to tell the president to do that?
I don't think there's any ambiguity here. John Bolton views military action and regime change as the preferred national security tool. I think he also added, Aaron, on North Korea, that Donald Trump and Kim should meet, but only so that Donald Trump could deliver a credible military threat. So diplomacy is only happening as a pretext to potential war. And so I think the real question is, one, is Donald Trump actually going to listen to this national security advisor? And if he does, is John Bolton going to put aside his personal views and have an inclusive policy process? Because as national security advisor, your job is to go out to all members of the interagency, take all different views from the State Department, from the United Nations, from the Defense Department, and present all options to the president. So if John Bolton wants to be a blocker on the diplomatic track and wants to only put forward military options, frankly, he has the power to do that. He controls what meetings happen in the Situation Room, what paper makes its way to the president. And so we're between a rock and a hard place. We're either going to have another unempowered national security advisor, or we're going to have a guy come in who doesn't actually believe in using all the tools in the toolkit.
So, Admiral, we just have this news in that John Bolton, we're learning, did not expect this announcement to come this afternoon. Now, my question to you is, what does it say to you that he seems to be surprised when you pair that with just the point, and again, we don't know whether H.R. McMaster said, I have no interest in a 4-star position and just decided he didn't, or here's what we know, he's not getting one, he's resigning.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Mr. Bolton is surprised by the announcement today. It seems to be par for the course for this White House to just put things out there with very little thought or process. So that almost doesn't surprise me. But on McMaster, I think we need to be careful here. A 4-star was certainly, I think, talked about. But there's not a lot of 4-star jobs out there, and they don't have that many 4-stars. Period, and the rotations are very, very awkward. So I don't know if we need to read too much into the fact that he's not getting a 4-star. I mean, I think retirement was always in the option for him. He was planning to retire anyway as a 3-star. So I wouldn't. I don't think we should read too much into that.
Sam, we're also learning that John Bolton says that the leak was unacceptable, and that is the leak that came, the president believes, from H.R. McMaster or someone that works for him, right, about those bullet points that told him what to do and what not to do on the Putin call, which the president, of course, either didn't bother to read or ignored. And Bolton is calling that person a munchkin. Look, that's the way, this is the word that he used. But what does this mean?
Well, the word munchkin makes me laugh a little bit, but I actually agree with John Bolton. I think I am strongly anti-leaking because I think that it gives the other side an advantage. And at this point, if the president doesn't think that he can trust the 5 or 6 people that see the final briefing package, then I think he's going to rely on them even less. And we already know that the president likes to shoot from his hip on these calls. And so if he thinks that the people that are in the room with him for that pre-brief, the National Security Advisor, the Chief of Staff, the Senior Director for Russia, if he thinks they can't be trusted to keep information close hold, as we used to call it in government, I imagine he's going to do more on his own, which doesn't make me sleep any better at night.
Admiral, before we go, there's another thing that was said in December of 2016 by John Bolton. He questioned whether the Russians were behind the hacking of the DNC. He said, why would Russia leave fingerprints? That's what he said. Now, that fits with the president's constant questioning of Russia's interference broadly in the election. It does not fit with H.R. McMaster, right? Who said the evidence is incontrovertible that Russia interfered with the election, and the president then slammed him on Twitter.
Or as new Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who also has been pretty clear about Russia's role here. Yeah, I'm worried about that too. I mean, again, I think the president is now it's a bit of a purge here, and he's trying to surround himself with people who think like him as much as possible on the main issues. And what, to Sam's point, I worry that you're not only getting a national security advisor who may not be heard by the president, but who the president may not listen to, period, or who may not be empowered and encouraged to provide his own individual thoughts. Trump is surrounding himself now with people who are more and more in his line of thinking, and that's not healthy, particularly on this Russia issue when we have a 2018 midterm coming up, and it's very clear from the congressional testimony of just the last couple of weeks that we aren't doing enough to get ready for it.
Right, and that it's under attack, as the president's own intelligence chiefs have made clear. Thank you both very much. And next, Trump's top attorney on the Russia probe